Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. It is a Wednesday, the 17th day of September, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. Speculation of a House leadership shakeup intensified as staff were seen packing up Speaker Martin Romualdez' belongings, including his nameplate. Contenders for the post reportedly include Faustino Boji D, Ronnie Puno, Albert Garcia, and JJ Suarez. Luzon is bracing for rains as Tropical Depression Mirasol made landfall over Casiguran, Aurora earlier today. Areas expected to be affected include Cagayan Valley, the Cordillera region, Aurora, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, and the Polillo Islands. And in a historic first, Las Filipinas triumphed over world number 21 Egypt to claim the Philippines' first ever win at the prestigious FIVB Men's World Championship. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, House Speaker Martin Romualdez is facing growing rumors of being replaced. He reportedly met with President Bongbong Marcos as talks of a leadership change in the House intensify. Here is the full report.
House personnel were seen moving out items from the office of Speaker Martin Romualdez on Tuesday. This comes amid swirling rumors of a leadership change in the House of Representatives. According to a source, Romualdez will step down as Speaker later this afternoon at the plenary session. Yesterday, the source said Romualdez went to Malacanang Palace. He was expected to meet with his cousin, President Bongbong Marcos, to discuss the House leadership. It remains unclear who initiated the meeting. So far, both the palace and the Speaker have remained silent. The House of Representatives is a co-equal branch of Malacanang, and the President has no power to directly choose the next Speaker as this post is elected by lawmakers. But Navota's Representative Toby Chanco said lawmakers are waiting for Malacanang's cue since they all support the President.
The most important vote is not inside the House of Representatives, di ba?
Where is it?
Hindi, it's out of respect. Di ba walang gagalaw dito because out of respect doon sa Malacanang. Di ba? So, yun naman iniintay ng lahat, di ba? Kung ano yung, siyempre lahat naman kami, we are supportive of the President.
At yesterday's session, no motion was filed to declare the Speaker's seat vacant. The session briefly resumed, then was suddenly suspended again, lasting less than 20 minutes before adjourning. Meanwhile, Vice President Sara Duterte insisted that Romualdez should indeed be replaced.
Dapat lang talaga. Dahil nakita niyo naman yung budget 2023, 24, 25 at lahat yung mga past budgets natin. Nakita natin na it was under the leadership of Speaker Martin Romualdez.
As the issue deepens, Cavite 4th District Representative Kiko Barzaga openly admitted his ambition to take over the speakership, even saying he hoped Majority Leader Sandro Marcos would not block his move.
I'm going to take Speaker Romualdez's speakership, and I hope Majority Leader Sandro Marcos won't hold it against me or won't stand in my way.
Others being floated as possible successors include Deputy Speaker Faustino Boji D of Partido Federal ng Pilipinas, Representatives Ronnie Puno and Albert Garcia of the National Unity Party, and Senior Deputy Speaker JJ Suarez of Lakas CMD. All have yet to release a statement. For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
The Anti-Money Laundering Council has ordered the freezing of bank accounts of several government officials and contractors linked to flood control project anomalies. DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon requested AMLAC Executive Director Matthew David to issue freeze orders. Now, among those on Dizon's list are former DPWH officials Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, and JP Mendoza, as well as contractors Curly and Sara Discaya.
The Court of Appeals granted the freeze order on 135 bank accounts and 27 insurance policy connected to individuals and corporations allegedly involved in the irregular flood control projects.
Meanwhile, Alcantara and Hernandez, two of the so-called BGC boys, now face criminal charges for using fake driver's licenses to enter casinos.
Hindi po natin hayaan na lapastanganin ng ninuman
ng mapa-opisyal o pribadong individual ang lisensya po ng DOTR at ng LTO. So mananagot po sila sa batas. Ito po ay magpapaalala sa taong bayan na talaga hindi ka pwede gumamit. Una, bawal ang peking license. Yan po ay pampublikong dokumento.
Congressmen have approved the Office of the Vice President's proposed budget for next year with minimal opposition as compared to last year's contentious deliberations. Arles de los Santos with the details.
At past 9 a.m. on Tuesday, September 16th, Vice President Sara Duterte arrived at the Romualdez Hall in Batasang, Pambansa to present her office's proposed 902.8 million pesos budget for 2026. This is higher than the OVP's 744 million pesos spending fund this year. Sara attended the lower chamber's hearing alone, no undersecretaries, no assistant secretary in tow. After her presentation, Davao 3rd District Congressman Isidro Ungab motioned for parliamentary courtesy to eliminate the need to present the budget line by line, but the Vice President was ready for some queries.
Yes, I waive the privilege.
Some members of the Makabayan bloc immediately seized the opportunity to finally ask the Vice President questions that first off, her foreign travels, which had taken her to Germany, Denmark, Japan, Hong Kong, Qatar, Australia, Korea, France, and Belgium between 2024 and this year.
Paano po pinopondohan yung pagpunta, flight and accommodations ng staff and security ng OVP?
Madam Chair, may I be allowed to ask a question? Magpinsan po ba si Congressman ko ngayon tsaka si Zaldico? Gusto ko
Mr.
lang
Chair, I
malaman.
can answer.
Are they relatives?
I have no familiar relation po to Zaldico or to Representative Zaldico or any of their relatives po.
Sara was also questioned about the 7.4 million pesos spent for security and personnel during travels, allegedly from Filipino taxpayers' money.
No public funds were used for all my travels.
Duterte was also asked about the 73 billion pesos in confidential funds that her office spent in 2022, which the Commission on Audit issued a notice of disallowance on.
Wala raw accomplishment reports na naipakita or sinubmit ang Office of the Vice President para dito. Ano na po ang status ng notice of disallowance na ito?
I suggest that the Congressman ask this during the hearing of the Commission on Audit.
The VP was also asked about confidential funds that supposedly went to characters named Mary Grace Piatos, Miggy Mingo, Xiaomi Ocho, and all others later found out to have no birth or even death records with the Philippine Statistics Authority.
This is the subject of an impeachment trial, and I would not like to discuss the defense for the impeachment trial.
The deliberations finished after an hour. After this, the OVP goes to plenary. Despite her office's budget breezing through today's deliberations, Duterte said she's certain she's not yet free from threat from the impeachment.
Oh yes, kasi kung hindi man yan matuloy ngayon, 2025, I'm sure magpa-file yan 2026, magpa-file yan 2027, or even siguro 2028, right before the presidential elections. So this is all about the presidential elections of 2028.
Meantime, Sara says she had recently spoken to her detained father, former President Digong.
He's okay. Nag-usap kami about politics, nag-usap kami about flood control, nag-usap kami about love life niya.
Mr. Duterte's defense team had claimed their client is no longer fit to stand trial due to cognitive impairment. They added the former chief executive cannot remember places, happenings, and even names of some family members anymore.
Tingin ko naman merong mangyayaring hearing sa competency. So antayin na lang natin yung mga experts.
Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos. We are One News.
Pag-asa said Tropical Depression Mirasol has made landfall over Kasiguran, Aurora at 3:20 a.m. today. Mirasol is expected to bring rains to Cagayan Valley, the Cordillera Administrative Region, Aurora, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, and the Polillo Islands. Metro Manila, the rest of the Ilocos region, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon may also see cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms. Pag-asa is also monitoring a low-pressure area outside the Philippine Area of Responsibility, which it said has a medium chance of developing into a tropical depression within the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, the Bicol region, Mimaropa, Western Visayas, the Negros Island region, Central Visayas, and the Zamboanga Peninsula may experience cloudy skies with scattered rains due to the southwest monsoon or habagat. When we return, let's discuss the House leadership change speculations with Kabataan Party List Representative Rene Ko. Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories after a quick break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Noon here at Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. House personnel were seen hauling out items from Speaker Martin Romualdez' office. This fuels speculations of an imminent shakeup in the House leadership. Now, amid the buzz, names of possible replacements are also already surfacing. Among them is Deputy Speaker Faustino Boji D, a member of President Bongbong Marcos' Partido Federal ng Pilipinas. These close party ties to the president make him one of the strongest contenders should Romualdez step down. And joining us now to comment on that, we have Kabataan Party List Representative Rene Ko to share her views on the latest developments in the House leadership issue. Magandang umaga sa iyo.
Magandang umaga po. Maraming salamat po sa pag-imbita sa programa ninyo.
No, Congresswoman, bago tayo pumunta doon sa leadership change, gusto ko muna puntahan yung naging exchange ninyo ng Vice Presidente kahapon dito sa House Appropriations hearing. Of course, she asked if you were related to Congressman Zaldi Ko. Were you surprised over that question, or did you at least expect it? Because the way I saw it, it seems you were prepared to answer.
Well, I didn't expect it dahil public knowledge yung aking background, no? I come from Malabon, my parents are from Cebu. There is a TikTok sa page namin explaining that. No, malayo kami sa bituka ni Representative Zaldico. And so, with diligent research or even just a cursory glance at our social media, you can definitely find the answer. So, hindi ko in-expect. But wala po akong tinatago. Even though out of order ang question, I can answer. So, that's unlike po yung ginagawa po ni VP Sara na kung ano-anong mga paikot-ikot sa mga sagot ay sa mga tanong natin in relation to her spending, not only for this year or for the coming year, no, pero for the previous years. But for me, yes, I have no familial relation, di ko po kaano-ano si Representative Zaldico. We just share the same surname, as many do Filipinos here in the Philippines.
Oo, maraming nga nagre-react din sa feed ko na Ko yung last name eh. So
Or
hindi kasi-
Jaco, or
hindi ka na-
Coco. ganun.
Okay. So that is on the record. No familial relations with the former House of Appropriations Chair Zaldi Ko. Second question is, were you satisfied over how this hearing was conducted? The 908.2 million budget has been approved already. Is that correct? Were you happy with the way things went?
Well, there are still plenary debates po. Meaning, hindi pa po pinal na approved yung budget ng OVP. But one step has been passed by the OVP. Pero sa amin, definitely we're not satisfied with how the hearing went. Lalo na't marami tayong tanong doon sa paano niya spend yung kanyang 2025 budget, which puts into question kung paano isuspend ang 2026 budget. In particular, I'd like to highlight sa bahagi ng questioning ni Representative Tino, pinoint out niya yung budget utilization rate, which is only at 34%. We are more than, nasa 3/4 na tayo ng taon. Ini-expect natin na magre-reflect yun sa budget utilization rate. 34% is less than, far away from 50%. So, ibig sabihin, hindi efficient po yung spending ng OVP. Ang sagot sa atin na matagal yung bidding, ito rin naman yung karanasan ng lahat ng government agency. So, we're not satisfied with that answer. And yung tanong ko naman po, yung travel funds, nagbigay ng exhaustive list si VP Sara doon sa kanyang saan siya pupunta-punta. And ang tanong natin, is this personal? Is this official? And kung personal sila, is she using OVP funds? Ang sagot na nakuha natin, pretty evasive, not all, ang sabi. But she confirms that 7.4 million pesos has been spent for flight and accommodations of her staff and security. So, ibig sabihin, there are some of those travels personal in nature, but magsuspend po for staff and security. So sa atin, we put into question yung ganong klaseng spending and paano naman therefore yung spending niya in the next year, lalo na yung track record ng paano yung spending niya in the previous years, which is exactly the subject of an impeachment complaint kasi hindi niya, nakita natin yung anomalya sa spending ng confidential and intelligence funds, having names like Mary Grace Piatos or even yung mga disbursing officers ay security heads that is violative of memoranda and rules of DBM and COA.
I heard you asking for documents from the Vice President. So will she be able to provide a list of all those travel expenses for your review?
This is what we hope to do. Ito po naman yung mandato ng mga agencies when sumasalang po sila sa budget hearings. In-exercise ng House of Representatives yung kanilang legislative oversight. And in the past, we're able to receive documents from various agencies in relation sa kanilang spending. We will be sure to flag. Pag hindi po na-receive ng Kabataan Party List or the Committee of Appropriations, yung nire-request na document that is on record, and yung magiging subject ng further scrutiny sa plenary debates and other aspects of the budget hearings.
Now, unlike the committee hearing of the Vice President last year, ito medyo mas mabilis. What was your feel of the room? And your colleagues there in the House Appropriations Committee, parang did they just want to get it over with or tingin nyo sa plenary talaga magkakatalo ito?
Well, definitely the feel of the room is they wanted as soon as possible for us to stop asking questions. That was evident in when I was asking questions. No, representatives would create manifestations in to answer on behalf of VP Sara. So on my part and on the part of Representative Tino, we actually take exception. Ayaw po namin na magkakaroon ng parliamentary
Courtesy.
courtesy extend to OVP and even to the Office of the President. When this was extended to both agencies, kami po ay nag-object. Ito po ay dahil in these extraordinary times kung saan nasisiwalat sa kung gaano kalalim at kalawak yung korupsyon ng pera ng bayan, there is no time and this is not the moment para magkaroon ng gantong courtesy na ine-extend. Dapat siyasatin natin lahat ng aspects ng budget, no? But sa Office of the President, we were not allowed to ask questions, no? It was put to a vote and we were just later made to manifest. And sa plenary po kasi, hindi na po haharap yung head of agency. Who will defend the budget will be the sponsor of the budget, a fellow representative. There will be staff that will assist, pero hindi na po ito magkakaroon ng opportunity that we directly ask the head of agency and various department heads kung ano po yung rationale ng budget nila or kung ano man yung answers sa questions or concerns namin. And sa OVP, no, though we were allowed to ask questions na kami po ni Representative Tino for Makabayan Block, sa bahagi namin, dapat allowed na magtanong lahat ng representatives. May mga civil society organizations that are witness and sitting in sa mga budget hearings na to. Kung may tanong sila, hindi ba natin i-allow? Paano na yung call for transparency? So for us, dapat hindi na-grant yung parliamentary immunity and dapat patuloy nating sinisiyasat yung lahat ng aspeto ng budget.
And speaking of that, no, balak din ba ninyo i-bring up itong confidential funds ng Office of the President? Kasi yun nga sinasabi din ng kampo ng mga Duterte, tingnan nyo din yung kumbaga parang wag lang kami, tingnan nyo rin yung iba pang mga ahensya, katulad na lamang yun nga ng Office of the President. Kamusta yun? Will that also be discussed or will parliamentary courtesy again be extended to the Office of the President?
Yun din yung kinagugulo ng isip ko pagka sinusumbat sa amin yun, no? Because we are very clearly critics of the spending and hindi pagiging transparent sa 4.5 billion confidential and intelligence funds ng Office of the President. Since years back, 4.5 billion pesos na yan. And patuloy nating tinatanong, saan yung spending yan? Nasaan yung reports? Bakit ba ginagawa siyang confidence and intelligence funds when, this big of a lump sum ay prone to abuse? And therefore, dapat nang ilagay sa items ng regular budget so that legislative oversight can be better used or utilized. Sadly, ang patuloy na sagot sa atin is, confidential siya in nature and therefore, limited yung masishare natin. And when up for debates or hearings, ito ay igagranta ng parliamentary courtesy. So that's why sa amin, given yung extraordinary circumstances nga, and hindi nga extraordinary to because ang unfortunate na reality natin is this corruption is deeply baked into the system. It's just now na sinisiwalat lahat ng mga anomalya down to ghost flood control projects to substandard by design na flood control projects na cost and nasisiwalat lang because for the past 2 years, sunod-sunod yung major flooding events. So clearly there's something wrong when the DPWH budget designates 1/3 of its new appropriations. So can you imagine how absurd that is? To flood control, pero hindi naman nakakontrol ang flood. Today po actually DPWH budget hearing. So handa tayo, geared tayo na kung ano yung bagong budget na to, given nga na nagkaroon ng pronouncement na zero ang budget for flood control for 2026.
Are you keen on that? Are you keen on making that zero for 2026? Because Senator Risa Ontiveros said she was not too keen on making it zero, but instead realigning the budget.
Well, ang call po ng Makabayan Block, no, una, lahat po ng flood control projects that is not part of a regional master plan or or walang scientific basis, meaning yung pachi-pachi lang, dapat zero yan. Dapat wala yan sa budget. But if yun nga, part siya ng may scientific basis, may pag-aaral, may studies kung ano yung magagawin ng flood control na to, part siya ng regional master plan and therefore parang sure tayo na hindi lang to isang racket ng isang lawmaker or even ng isang DPWH official, di pwede po. But sa bahagi namin, yeah, yung 260 billion pesos plus for flood control projects now, medyo sky's the limit. Saan to pwedeng ilagay? Lagay natin sa education, lagay natin sa health, lagay natin sa housing, which sees, no, paltry budget almost all the time. So sa atin, lagay natin sa buildings, sa state universities and colleges, sa pagpapatayo ng bago nito, sa bagong scholarship funds, sa bagong pabahay, sa bagong DOH hospitals and the like.
And speaking of corruption, we do know that two names have floated already in the hearings. Ano, ito nga yung pangalan ni House Speaker Martin Romualdez at Congressman Zaldico. And there is a rumored leadership change that will happen today. Anong naririnig mo tungkol doon? Have you been approached, at least, no, to vote for a new speaker?
Well, dahil minority block kami, wala talagang kumakausap sa amin. And I think sure sila na kahit anong mangyari, we will be sticking with yung mga principles namin in the minority block. And medyo malabo kung may lalapit sa amin for speaker. So to confirm, no, wala pong lumalapit sa amin. And my guess is as good as yours. Lahat nga ng alam ko ay nasasagap ko sa media. So nakaantabay tayo today for any developments and changes. But more importantly, yung pakana ng maraming kongresista, I think would be the DPWH budget hearing this morning. But yun nga po, sa bahagi ng Makabayan Block, sa bahagi ng maraming mga agrabyadong mga mamamayang Pilipino, kailangan pong may significant movements na sa paano may imbestigahan yung mga contractors, lawmakers, DPWH officials na pinapangalan na nasasangkot. And tingnan natin at patuloy nating pag-aralan kung ano yung mga developments tungkol dito.
And paano ba yung mangyayari kung what is stepping down? Is that resignation? Kasi pag resignation, tama ba na kailangan boboto yung buong Kamara for the next speaker? At kung boboto man, sino ang napupusuan ng minority at ng Makabayan Block?
Well, sa bahagi namin, sa rules, nakalagay na yes, if there is stepping down, that would mean resignation. Siguro mayroon tayong makikitang pagboboto ng bagong speaker, though it remains to be seen kung anong mode of voting. Pero sa bahagi naman po ng Makabayan Block, sa history niya, no, ay careful yung consideration niya sa ganito. Kami, we can say that we have no intent to join the majority and okay po kami dito sa posisyon namin sa minority where we're able to ask questions, we're able to ensure that kung ano man po yung mga activities in different committees ay pwede namin i-check. And syempre, patuloy tayong tumitindig laban sa sistema na tuloy-tuloy yung paghahanap ng means of corruption because of how the system is set up in the first place. Privatized yung infrastructure, there's no other option. Privatized yung pag-deliver ng maraming services and patuloy din yung efforts to make it more aggressively private. And so actually sa amin, ang pagtingin namin, hindi enough ang pagpalit ulo. Wala pong gagawin yung pagpalit ulo. Kailangan may pagpalit ng sistema.
Pero paano nga ba gagawin yun, yung pagpapalit ng sistema and how do we hold our people in power accountable? Yun na nga, it goes all the way up to the congressmen and to the senators. Paano yun? How do we institutionalize these changes? And the last question is for the leadership change. Sabi nyo, sa rules, dapat boboto para sa susunod na House Speaker. Pero sabi ni Congressman Toby Chango, he was very direct. The most important vote is not inside the House of Representatives. Out of respect to Malacanang, nobody would dare make a move. And that's what we're all waiting for. What would you have to say to that?
In relation to the first question, actually, I would go up to extend it to President Marcos. No, this gantong widespread na corruption, and as provided po sa mga reports, for example, ng Philippine Center of Investigative Journalism, where these same top contractors have been the top contractors since the time of President Arroyo, kung saan naging mas aggressive yung infrastructure projects, and that status quo has remained, including as well no yung pag-institutionalize ng pork barrel system, na even though unconstitutional yung parang surface or yung legal pork, ay ngayon hidden na siya. No, and this entire system, ang chief architect po nito ay si President Marcos Jr. And imposibleng hindi niya alam yung bilyones na lumalabas in flood control funds, no? Nang hindi niya may go signal, or hindi at least may awareness si President Marcos Jr. So sa bahagi namin, ang kailangan mangyari para magkaroon ng effective institutional changes ay tanggalin natin sa una yung mga aspects that protect the monopoly of power to the hands of the few. Simula, of course, yung pagkakaroon dapat ng anti-political dynasty law. The Constitution already prohibits political dynasties. But hanggang ngayon ay sinastruggle pa rin yung pagkakaroon ng definition that would, allow an enabling law to create yung gantong klaseng restrictions. Sa SK meron na, sa bar meron na. Why not sa rest ng sistema natin? That's one lang. Pero ikalawa din, of course, kailangan nating i-rethink at kailangan magkaroon ng changes sa aggressively privatized system of spending or even of creating buildings, creating projects. There is no other way to create buildings right now other than to, contract it out to a private contractor.
Correct.
Tapos ngayon, kung malalaman natin kung paano yun, marami tayong involved, no? So that's
Congresswoman,
one.
ihahabol ko lang tong tanong na to, no? Kasi alam ko medyo kaidaran mo siya. Si Congressman Kiko Barzaga, as he approached you, what are your thoughts on him? Kasi parang hindi ko alam kung nagpahayag siya na gusto niya maging speaker, pumalit kay House Speaker Martin Romualdez. But he does belong, for one, to a political dynasty from the Barzagas of Cavite. Your thoughts on your colleague?
Yeah, actually, doon po sa mga shinare ng ibang mga representatives, isa rin ako sa, I think, numerous na nilapitan niya for speakership. Pero to be clear, no, yung paglapit is, I think, 2-minute interaction where he pinahayag din niya yung intent niya and then asked for support. And sa bahagi namin, patuloy namin pinag-aaralan, pero we're pretty settled dito sa aming position again sa minority. And similarly, kung magkakaroon ng botohan for speaker, I foresee na mag-abstain ang Makabayan block na hopefully, hindi na lang kami ni Representative Tino, pero papasok rin si Representative Sara Alago very soon. And so, yun po yung ilang mga developments inside, outside. Actually, we are heartened to see yung mas maraming engagement ng kabataan, my age, younger, or even other generations sa pagpapanagot sa mga kurakot at patuloy na nakikitang nag-take advantage ng systems like political dynasties. No? Representative Kiko Barzaga included sa mga may ties to political dynasties. So actually, I'd like to take this time to invite everyone to the September 21 mobilization, 9 a.m. sa Luneta. No? Bahain natin yung Luneta ng ating galit, ng ating indignation sa gantong klaseng nangyayari sa sistema. And other than political dynasties and anti-privatization efforts legislatively, let us push for these also outside of Congress through organizing ourselves. I see good efforts and maunlad na efforts gaya ng Water for the People Network na because of their efforts and pag-organize ng iba't ibang leaders, iba't ibang stakeholders, are they able to expose yung prime water issue, no? And nakakuha tayo ng iba't ibang updates kung kamusta na yon on the level of the ports. Organization works. And I hope na makita kayong lahat sa September 21.
Malinaw na malakas ang boses ng kabataan ngayon sa House of Representatives. Maraming salamat for joining us today. We have Kabataan Party List Representative Rene Co.
Thank you very much.
And speaking of the flood control budget that will be discussed in the House today, just in, Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon has formally recommended to Congress the removal of allocations for locally funded flood control projects in the revised 2026 National Expenditure Program. The move would slash the Department of Public Works and Highways proposed budget by almost 29%, lowering it to 624.7 billion pesos from the initial 881.3 billion pesos. The House Committee on Appropriations is set to take up the DPWH proposed budget today. We'll watch out for that later during the day. In the meantime, stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back after a quick break. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. At this point, let's get insights from Professor Jean Franco of the UP Department of Political Science about a possible leadership change in the House of Representatives. Magandang umaga sa'yo. Welcome to the show.
Magandang umaga, Gretchen. Magandang umaga sa mga nanonood.
Una-una, ito yung inaabangan nga ng mga tao ngayong araw, yung rumored leadership change in the House. Kagabi, nakita natin nag-iimpake yung mga tao dun sa kanyang opisina. Do you think it was just a matter of time here? And what did you think that was the defining factor that led or will lead to this?
Well, we heard reports that Speaker Martin Romualdez and the President, together with Sandro Marcos, met, I think, last night. And if he indeed resigns from the speakership today, and if the President really talked him into it, then it goes to show that he has really become a liability to the President, no? People must understand that this flood control investigation is a defining moment of the Marcos Jr. presidency. And naging untenable yung posisyon ni Speaker Romualdez, not only because he is close to the President, but because he is a cousin, no, of the President.
It was really the links to this flood control probe that I guess move that needle. But siguro pinatotohanan nito yung statement ni Congressman Toby Chanco that no one moves without the approval of Malacanang, that's the number that counts. Do you think it's the same over at the Senate with the change in Senate presidency?
Well, if that is the case, because previously the Senate has always been regarded as a more independent chamber, but then there's a perception that the Marcos presidency has not been very active in sort of intervening covertly in Senate matters, and that has become some sort of a criticism against him that he's kind of weak. And if he indeed has intervened, no, recently in the Senate, then that is an indication that he's responding to criticisms, and that indication that he is really serious in this investigation. Kasi kailangan makitang seryoso siya eh. Otherwise, walang mangyayari dito.
And speaking of a turning point in governance, he himself has said it na ito nga ay turning point no sa kanyang administrasyon. Do you see that that being true? And are you confident in this probe in the ICI, the Independent Committee for Infrastructure, remaining impartial, even if it is formed and budgeted by the Office of the President?
Yes, no, we have to believe in the commission. Of course, sa akin, mas okay if there is a law. As I've read, there's more teeth to the bills being, proposed in both chambers of Congress. But then we have to act very quickly on this matter, and that's why there's already the ICI. Alam mo, the only indication that the commission is serious if they're also targeting politicians, no? Kasi in both houses of Congress, puro allegations, but then wala talagang politician masyado na nadiin, no? Sa DPWH at saka sa contractors focus yung investigation. So I think this commission should really make an effort to zero in on politicians. Kasi unless you focus on politicians, then you will not know how the insertions work, which is at the root of the problem.
And sabi nga ni President Marcos, he will spare no one, not even his cousin, House Speaker Martin Romualdez. In the event that he does step down, do you see that as a severing of ties between the President and his cousin? At mukhang pwede nang lumutang yung pangalan ni House Speaker dito nga sa ICI.
Yeah, severing of ties, probably, of course, not as cousins, but I can just imagine how awkward it was last night, no? I mean, if indeed they met, no, as reports said they did.
Pero ito nga sabi nga ni Congresswoman Rene Co, no, she does not want to spare the Office of the President when it comes to these flood control insertions. Kasi kumbaga parang he could not have been without the knowledge na may ganun. I mean, what would you make of that? Kasi kumbaga parang hinayaan din na mamuno si House Speaker Romualdez for the past 3 years. At ngayon nangyari ito.
Yeah, I agree that I agree with Congresswoman Rene Co. And in a sense, tama ka, we should have seen this coming. Mainly because when Speaker Romualdez became Speaker, I think he made his wife a member, the chair of the House Committee on Accounts. So it's quite it's not surprising, but it's parang grabe naman, di ba? And I think the president initially must have felt that the speaker can help him, no? But then that's the trouble with dynasties, di ba? Paano mo papakagalitan ng pinsan mo, no? Kaso, kinailangan niyang magkaroon muna ng, ano, no? Ng mga aligasyon at kailangan pumutok ng ganito yung issue bago niya pinagsabihan siguro as what happened last night, di ba?
Kumbaga
So,
parang-
tama ka, may ano, I mean, the president should have been more circumspect, no, in choosing him or in supporting his speakership in the first place.
Maybe it has become glaring that the speaker has become a liability to his legacy. But Marcos, as an anti-corruption champion, how are you taking that?
Yeah, and of course, people, I mean, it's commonsensical for people to not take it seriously, given the legacy of corruption by the Marcos senior administration. And I think that is probably the reason why the president is really trying very hard to be perceived as serious in this investigation.
I mean, does he want to like change
Yeah,
his family's
kasi-
legacy altogether, be different from his father? Yung ba yung bubog niya?
Yeah, yun ang nakikita ko, no. Of course, we don't know what happens behind the scenes, but then can you imagine tumakbo siya and nanalo siya on the basis of the fact that he wanted to sort of revitalize his family name. And it's going to be ano naman, no? Parang if this flood investigation is going to be his legacy, then he better do it well, no? Kasi very much linked ito, of course, to corruption. Ang hirap na ang legacy mo, meron kang pinabayaan, meron kang pinalagpas na issue na sana may nagawa ka, no?
And what changes are you hoping to find, apart from actually investigating politicians here in the flood control probe? Ano pang nakikita mo dapat maging pagbabago? Kasi parang pag sinabihin nating corruption, it feels like opening a Pandora's box. Ang lalim at ang lawak. Ano kaya yung dapat makitang pagbabago rito para hindi maging rhetoric lamang?
Oo. Clearly, kahit na sabihin mong marami tayong mga batas and mga rules, no, against corruption, ang dami na nga di ba? Pero meron nakakalusot, and mainly because of informal practices that have become accepted, no? And yung insertions, congressional insertions, talagang yun ang source, no? Come to think about it, no? And I support moves to make the budget hearings more transparent, especially the BICAM. Do away with yung small committees. Dapat at every step of the way, dapat merong recording of what transpires in these hearings. So that's one solution. The other solution would be, of course, dapat may makulong. And kasi nakita natin systemic, no? So meron ding Bureau of Customs, no? Accountability yun sa mga sasakyan. Meron din yung PAGCOR. So these are parang may no? Maraming na-discover ang taong bayan regarding this flood investigation issue. That's why napaka-phenomenal nitong issue na to. And so clearly, there has to be changes in the way these agencies operate. At sana, yung commission, bagamat marami silang rekomendasyon, no, na isasalang, sana they should also consult corruption experts para makita para magkaroon ng organizational audit, no, sa mga ahensyang ito, so that they can see the loopholes. Kasi kailangan hindi magkaroon ng discretion yung mga tao, no? Yung mga officials over big amounts of money saan nang gagaling yung discretion na to, paano nangyayari to. So, and clearly, ang end goal is to really make this more transparent.
There are rallies coming up over the weekend, September 21, proving to be or moving to be a big day. How do you think will rallies make a mark in this point in history? Maraming tayo nakikita online, pagod ng mga Pilipino, maraming social media posts. But also, we've had 3 EDSA people power rallies, protests. Do you think that's still an effective strategy now to get more results?
They are very effective, no? Nakita naman natin that the government is listening, at least so far. And Gretchen, this is this is very important, yung civil society and social movements na mobilization efforts. Kasi pag nakita mong nagfe-fail na yung checks and balances sa gobyerno, saan ka pupunta, no? Kundi yung pupunta ka dun sa sa mga mamamayan who will seek accountability. That's why I'm also joining the rallies on September 21 sa People Power Monument. As a convener of every woman, I'd like to invite everyone to join us sa People Power Monument.
Pero may mga nangangamba na this will become violent. I mean, if you take a look at Nepal, what has happened there, in Indonesia, what has happened there, dito sa Pilipinas, anong tingin mo, maaari bang mapunta doon? Baka gayahin ito, yung mga pangyayari sa ibang bansa? Mga anti-corruption protests?
I don't think so on our part. We've made every effort to ensure that the rally will be peaceful. At yung sa Nepal naman kasi tinanggal yung internet, 'di ba? So, and that's why Gen Z really went crazy. At saka sa pagkakakilala ko sa Pilipino, ang haba ng PC. Yung sa ibang bansa, sa ibang bansa parang dinagdagan lang ng allowance yung mga lawmakers. You get what I mean? Sa atin, ang tagal na nito. Araw-araw, nakikita natin sumasakay ng pumipila para makasakay sa, makapunta lang ng trabaho. Araw-araw, tuwing na lang, may mga baha. Ngayon lang nangyari itong ganitong malawakang investigation. Tapos, at may mga proteso, talagang dapat naman, no? At for as long as hindi pinipigilan ang pagpoprotesta, I think malayong maging violent yung mga protests, di ba?
Pero
Kasi
may isa rin ako nabasang katanungan, no? Ito, syempre, lalabas ka nga para maglabas ng mga hinaing. Pero anong goal nitong mga protesta? Bukod sa getting heard, what do you think is the effectiveness of these rallies and how do we measure that effectiveness?
Yeah, that's a good question, no? I think the effectiveness of these protests is to prove to the government that the people are watching, that hindi nila palalagpasin itong issue na to put pressure on the government to work very hard to make these investigations work for the people. So yun yung mga hinaing na nakapaloob dito sa mga protests na to. Hindi kasi pwedeng pabayaan na lang, dahil yun na nga, nalulusaw na yung accountability within the branches of government. So saan ka pupunta kundi sa mga civil society and social movement?
And over the past weeks or so, we've seen also the rise of young bloods in Congress. Tingin niyo po ba nagbabago na rin yung bagong henerasyon ng mga politiko? I mean, of course, Congresswoman Rene Co is from the Makabayan Bloc. That's pretty much expected for her to be more forthright. But we also have Representative Kiko Barzaga, who has his own style. We have Representative Javi Benitez, who did not sign the manifesto of support for the House Speaker despite being part of the majority. Ano pong nakikita niyo po dito sa mga bagong politiko o kaya yung mga bagong trends in politics?
Well, it's it's a pleasant trend, no, that young people are making it in formal politics. Kasi kung tutuusin, they form a third of the voters. So dapat lang na they are represented in Congress, no, and in government. But then hindi naman porke bata kailangan iboto o kailangan suportahan, no, na politiko. Kailangan merong substance, may sense din, no. Reneco was a student in our department, so and that I'm very happy how things turned out for her.
Well, how do you see these events influencing the 2028 elections? Is this a redrawing of political lines, party lines? Of course, in the Senate, we see now Senator Risa Ontiveros being part of the majority, which is quite surprising how she ended up there. Pero anong nakikita mo rito? I mean, how is this flood control probe influencing the political parties, how they're formed, leading up to 2028?
That's a very good question. More palatable, no, in terms of getting votes, no, from the general public. Tapos dahil anti-corruption, we're veering away from from the Duterte era where ang gusto natin yung hyper-masculine na leader. So ngayon parang ang gusto naman natin yung matino, may effort na eradicate ang corruption. Sana nga mabago ang narratives. And yung alliances, of course, that will follow.
Oh, it is definitely a phenomenon in itself. I mean, watching everything, I guess it does somehow affect all the branches of government, and pati na rin yung umaabot pa hanggang sa lifestyle check ngayon, no? Not just the political scene, even the entertainment scene, public figures in general are being scrutinized here. So it is a defining moment in Philippine history. And thank you for helping us sift through things and understand what's happening. Abangan po natin ang mga kaganapan ngayong araw na ito. Maraming salamat sa inyong oras. We have Professor Jean Franco of UP's Department of Political Science.
Maraming salamat, Gretchen. Thank you for having me.
Moving on over to sports, Las Filipinas pulled off a stunning upset after toppling Egypt in 4 sets in the FIVB Men's Volleyball World Championship at the Mall of Asia Arena on Tuesday. The victory marked the country's first ever win in the prestigious tournament. Brian Bagunas powered the team with 25 points, while Leo Ordiales had 21 and Mark Espejo had 13. The Filipinos look to ride their momentum as they face powerhouse Iran this coming Thursday. A Filipino crew member was injured after 2 China Coast Guard ships blasted a Philippine fisheries vessel with water cannons near Bajo de Masinloc. A BFAR crew member was hit by flying glass fragments from a broken window on Tuesday. The BRP Datu Gumbay Piang, which was delivering supplies to fishermen, sustained heavy damage to its windows and equipment. And despite the attack, the vessel evaded further harassment and rejoined its fleet. The Coast Guard vowed to continue supporting fisherfolk and defending the country's rights in the West Philippine Sea. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.